I'm MDA. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm making my first costume for 2026. This is my kind of a get back to sewing project because I haven't made anything in months, and the last thing I made was Padme, and that's the only thing I sewed for all of 2025 because, you know, I got pregnant, so I couldn't really make any of the costumes I originally planned. But first project for 2026 is going to be Laughing Jack from Creepypasta. I'm doing the full monochrome version first, and I plan to do full rainbow and transitioning between the two. Yeah, monochrome is the first version. I only had to buy the black and white striped fabric and an elastic for sewing. The only things I still need are feathers, foam clay. It is currently 2 days to Christmas, and my first part of this project is making his pants, and hopefully that won't be too bad to do, even though I plan to hand finish all of my seams because I'm a masochist. Starting off with a pattern I've used before, McCall's M4459, which might be discontinued now. This is a basic pants pattern that I have modified for so many different costumes, including Lucifer and Peach. I think I used this for making Demise's leggings too. It's such an easy pattern to modify since it's so basic and straightforward. Only thing I really needed to do for making these into Jack's pants was shortening them. I'm so thankful to be only 5'3". Very thankful I had this cotton in my stash, as it had almost the exact look that I wanted. It's almost comical how little machine sewing there was on this costume, despite how much of my machine gets sewn throughout the video. I ended up doing so much of it by hand. I think 90% was actually by hand. With the crotch seams and the side seams sewn, time to try them on. Okay, so pants are mostly sewn together. I just need to see how they'll fit. They look massive, but going on, they're probably gonna be fine. So, it looks like they'll fit okay. Okay, I don't mind these being a little bigger here because I plan to put elastic in anyway. I think by the time, because I plan to put elastic in here, so I'll bring this in. This has enough room for me to bend and move. And I plan to put cuffs here, so I think I'm going to continue. Next up, like any good sewer should, ironing my seams flat. This gives a much nicer finish when the garment is done, and it makes it easier to work the seam the way I need to after it's pressed. I like to flat fill my seams in my pants, so I'm cutting down one side of my seams to about 1/8 of an inch, and I go slow using small scissors. After I have it completely trimmed down, I fold the other side over and hand sew it in place using, I think it's a whip stitch, I could be wrong. But it keeps the seams from fraying, and I find this so peaceful to do. I'm kind of a big fan of Jackwise Clan, so I had their Laughing Jack videos on a lot while making this. After I had the inside seams completely finished, I set to doing the hem on the waistband of the pants.
I just did an elastic waistband with being freshly postpartum, and I always do them, honestly. He's also technically a toy, so this seemed even more fitting.
So I did a few things off camera, like putting the waistband into my pants for Jack. I'm still very freshly postpartum, so there were certain things I need to do. So I just did it off screen. I'm now on to doing the cuffs for the bottoms of the pants because I did all the hand sewing. And then it's going to be sewing these this way, doing a bit of a hem, gather this, sew it together, and then it's probably going to be finishing by hand. I'm also going to be hand sewing on a couple of patches like he's been repaired. Also going to be putting some back pockets on, and from there the pants will be pretty much done, except for adding down the road buttons for the fake suspenders, because I plan to do fake suspenders for this cosplay because I want to have them stick out like this. So for a day's work, I've made some pretty decent progress. I've actually made more progress than I thought I would, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's just hope I can keep that up relatively well.
The cuffs were perhaps the easiest thing. Sew each end together, turn the right way out, press, and then gradually have the gathered end of the pants in the cuff. And gathering the pants took a while, since it was done using my machine on the longest stitch you can do. And slowly and carefully pulling the thread and scrunching the fabric. After sewing the cuff onto the bottom of the pants with the machine, I finished the inside by hand so I wouldn't have any stitching exposed on the outside. And it turned out so nice inside this way. I also made a fake patch, since he's meant to be an 1800s toy.
Christmas Eve and I'm sewing. This seems right. I'm watching Jingle All the Way for the first time.
We used to dance the night away, hang out the whole next day, laughing, having fun.
Because I did the patch as 2 layers, I had to carefully trim my corners and then turn it the right way out. I do have a point turner, but I couldn't find it at the time I made this, so please don't come for me.
You have no idea what you did.
I purposefully made the sewing on it a bit messier using a zigzag stitch since I wanted it to look more like a child had done the repair. I also made a pocket for on the back of the pants in a similar manner, just bigger, and it is big enough to hold my phone and my wallet.
Okay, it's now a few days later. It's the 27th of December, and I ideally am going to get some work done on the shirt today. I've actually been able to put on my compression shirt, so this is the first time I've worn it since probably January, if not February. February was the last time I wore it. Feels a lot tighter than it did before, but I've got more here. But I expect that with being, I'm like 8 weeks postpartum, almost 9 weeks. So ideally I want to do some work on the shirt. I don't know how far I'll get, but we'll see. Any progress is good progress as far as I'm concerned. I don't plan to have this done till Anime Ottawa, so I have time, and Laughing Jack is pretty simple. And once I have Laughing Jack done, I want to continue with Kaito and get him finished, hopefully also for Anime Ottawa, but we'll see. Yeah, so let's get started. I'm also figuring that worst case, I get overwhelmed and I just make suspenders because suspenders are really easy. But this is leftover fabric from making Demise in 2024. This is an entire queen bedsheet. I used it for making the leotard for Demise, and I'm going to use it for the shirt for Jack, so hopefully this goes well. So yes, I'm making a tight shirt with no stretch fabric because I want to use as much scrap as I can. I do have a zipper I could possibly put in if I really want to, so that might happen. We'll see. This is not normally how I would do this. I don't remember the last time I actually did something like this. I've drawn the shape I want. This is at least going to be the back of my shirt for Jack directly onto the fabric. We're going on vibes here. It's vibes. It's just pure vibes. Because that's there, and I've also found like a couple pink spots. I'm just going to like probably flip it the other side. I'm not overly worried about that anyway. That might end up in the seam allowance. We'll see. Fluffs. But yeah, the start of Jack's shirt, I'm using the hem of the bed sheet so I don't have to do as much hemming. So fingers crossed this goes well for me. I've actually made this bigger than what my measurements are for my chest because why the hell not?
Remember the days we were young, wild and free, basic getting sprung. We used to dance the night away, hang out the whole next day, laughing, having fun. Summer love, you have no idea what you did to me. Summer love, didn't.
So I tried to find pattern that has a sleeve I can use. Apparently those are all at home, so I have to make my own, and I'm going to do it directly on the fabric because I can't be bothered. Running on vibes with this project. Vibes. So this project is exclusively vibe. Yes, I do a lot of things in my Jeff hoodie. It's comfy, it's warm. So I already measured. My arm is, the length I want is 25 inches from the top of my shoulder to where I want it to end. I just need to mark that on the fabric.
I'm actually going to use the selvage. This is actually folded the opposite direction because I want the stripes to go horizontally down my arm, not vertically. Actually, I should press this flat so I have a crisp edge. So using selvage, I'm going to mark in pencil, and I know the arm size was about 11. I have a very chaotic way of doing my arm size. So then here to here will be my sleeve. One sleeve. And I need to do this twice, but I'm going to cut this one out, pin it, and then cut the second one out. I do actually have too much fabric for doing just the 2 sleeves, so I'm going to be using it for other projects as well. I took what was left on the bolt. I would very quickly regret my choices of how I did the sleeves. So I messed up pretty hard yesterday making my sleeves. I made the curved part at the top too long, and I made them too tight, so that didn't work. Ended up just cutting straight rectangles that were the entire, or almost the entire width of the fabric. Ended up having to still add gussets. So I have sleeves. They're just not what I originally planned. Sorry, I look rough. It is breakfast time, and I have my son in my lap. But yeah, I'll be finishing the sleeves today. Probably adding a detail that I tried to add by sewing yesterday and it didn't work, so I'm going to do it by paint. I think it'll work better. Probably work on the ruffle and possibly the bandages today. We'll see how far I get. I'm not holding myself to any like crafting timelines. The only thing I know for sure is I want him done for Anime Ottawa, which I think is pretty reasonable. Doing the painting on the shirt was one of my favorite parts. A little bit of acrylic paint, watered down, gave exactly the effect I wanted, and I knew it would work well on this fabric since I did similar with Demise in summer of 2024 on this same fabric. It did take a few coats to get it the way I wanted, front and back, but I'm so happy with how it turned out, and it was so relaxing to do. I did a 2-layer neck ruffle and gathered both layers the same way I did the pants, but I hated these, as in the end it was over 120 inches of fabric. My suspenders, however, were a breeze. 2 long tubes sewn up, turned the right way out, and then top stitched before I got to the detail stuff. I'm so sorry for jumping around a lot, but this is kind of how my process goes when I make stuff. I lucked out that I had fabric that I didn't mind sacrificing to use for making the bandages for Jack. I just measured out a very long rectangle and carefully cut it out multiple times, needing to wrap around my body a few times. Doing this admittedly took longer than I expected. And my ruffles all pinned in place. I hated it, and I have to do this again for my other 2 Jacks. My machine wasn't happy about having to sew through all of that gathering. I had debated to machine sew the bandages on, but I chose to do that, again, by hand. I wanted parts to look like he had been repaired by a child because, again, 1800s, Jack in the Box. He was a gift to a child in his story, so I did try to use more methods that would have been in history and emulate how I figured a kid might try to sew bandages on.
So I haven't actually worked on Jack for a couple days. You know, because I have a tiny human to take care of and entertain at basically all times. But today it's going to be, hopefully, you'll see, depends on how far I get, at least making sure that the bandages sit the way that I need them to. Maybe see if I can or should add a little bit of gray paint at the edges of the bandages just to make them stand out a little bit so that they're not so flat. Probably also going to see about, hopefully, finishing the suspenders, because I need to finish those, which is just attaching the back of the suspenders to the back of the shorts, choosing what buttons I'm going to use for the front, and hand sewing the buttonholes, because apparently I'm a masochist and I prefer to hand sew buttonholes. Bonus points of getting the bias tape or quilt binding sewn around the neckline of the shirt, and then we'll see where I have to go from there, because that is basically all the sewing for Jack. That's basically all the sewing I have left. I still need foam clay, which I just ordered this morning so I can make the nose. I have a wig I can use. It's my wig I bought for Hermes. I'm just going to use it interchangeably because the way I plan to do Jack doesn't really need any styling. And Hermes, the wig sits how I want it, just by tucking hairs a specific way. So I also have gloves to make for Jack. I forgot about making the gloves. But beyond that, there's not much left for Jack. I expected to be taking much longer to do this project than what I actually have, just because I have a 2-month-old. And here it is, like, I started this project the 23rd of December, and today's January 4th, and the costume is mostly done. I might be able to do a full test run before Anime Ottawa. Genuinely impressed with how fast this has gone.
Hey, can I get a smile? No? No smiles? No smiles for mommy? No. Life with a baby, ladies and gentlemen. Life with a baby.
And then it became the neckline's turn for hand sewing. I pinned the quilt binding in place on one side and set to sewing it on by hand, first on the outside, then the inside. I don't think if I had done this on the machine, my ruffles would have kept the shape I wanted and was happy with. I'm glad I used Jack as an opportunity to improve on skills, because my hand sewing definitely got a lot better thanks to all that I did on him.
Okay, so I've done quite a bit off screen. Because, you know, parent, as a parent, I've kind of been not able to always have the camera on. but one thing I did was I added an extra detail to these pants for Laughing Jack. Will anybody see it? Probably not, but it makes me happy, and that's all I care about. I have also done buttons and attached my suspenders. Don't mind the cat hair. I have to still take it. I still have to take a lint roller to this, but this makes me happy because my buttonholes are entirely done by hand. Like, this isn't my best work because this is the first time I've done it in a while, but I'm still pretty happy. I'm using Laughing Jack as a chance to develop more skills, like develop skills that I already have, like doing the buttonholes by hand, get those better, do my finishings better, learn more about gathering in cuffs, stuff like that. I'm using Jack as a learning opportunity. As well, off screen, I have finished this. This was entirely hand sewn on, inside and out. I technically recorded this and I put it on TikTok. I'll probably include it. Of making these. These are made from yarn I bought at the dollar store. So I made my own pom-poms. They're hand sewn on. I just used the selvage edges from some scrap white fabric to make my bandages for Jack. While not pretty, they work for the character. Like, he's not supposed to be new or clean or perfect. He is a jack-in-the-box from the 1800s. So I'm kind of going as toy-like as I can, which is partly why these are not real suspenders. They're just fabric. There's not even interfacing in them. So these pieces, his shirt and pants, are actually done. This just arrived today. Yes, I'm sitting on my bed. Don't mind me. This isn't dirty. It's just old as fuck. Or old as heck. This just arrived today. I will be using foam clay to make the cone nose. I'm going to use it to make a few Laughing Jack cone noses because I'm also doing rainbow and color fade, so I'll need to make 2 more. So I might make all 3 at the same time to save myself hassle. Because why not? And I started these yesterday. This is the base for the shoulder feathers. So this is actually completely hand sewn. I typically hate hand sewing, but I wanted to practice my seam sewing, so it has the tightest, neatest seams I've ever done by hand. This is actually the tightest I've ever done for hand sewing. So I have 2 of these, and I'm cutting up scraps. So this is one of my failed seams, and inside I have made coleslaw. And this is going to get stuffed into these, because this is a old method to use up scraps so it didn't go to waste, and it's also a more environmentally conscious choice so that stuff doesn't end up in landfills. So I'm doing that with as much scrap material as I can, or it's just gonna get stuffed into these. It's not gonna be these are not gonna be heavily stuffed, just a little bit, just enough to have a bit of extra shape. So yeah, I'm gonna be cutting up more of this. I have a couple more pieces to cut up, stuff inside, sew this up. These will attach onto the shirt with snap fasteners. The only thing I really still have left to actually get is feathers, and I'm pretty sure at my parents' I have the perfect feathers to attach onto this, and I will be hand sewing them all because I still have feathers left over from Ultimecia, from Kuja. I have a lot of feathers. I have a drawer full of feathers, and hopefully that drawer is still good so that I can actually use those, get those used up, because why not? So yeah, it'll be doing more coleslaw, stuffing that, and I might actually start making the noses today. We'll see. See how far I get. I've gotten more done on Jack than I thought I would in this time. So we'll see how it goes. I have cut up more cabbage. This is satisfying to see scraps that I couldn't use otherwise getting used by being turned into stuffing. Or not cabbage, coleslaw. Why do I keep saying cabbage? But yes, this makes me happy because it's going to be reused into the cosplay. Okay, so I'm working on the shoulder feather support. They now are stuffed with coleslaw. I like the shape it makes, and I like how it drapes when it's on my shoulder. It's actually the shape I wanted, so I got that first try. The fact that these are made with scrap fabric and then they're stuffed with more scrap fabric makes me really happy. So I'm currently, it's like, yeah, it's decently stuffed. It's just here, which is fine. So I'm currently turning this and pinning it together. I'm going to hand sew this. There's going to be snaps to secure these onto the shoulders of the shirt. And if I can get that done, and depending on how things go, I might work on the nose today as well. We will see though. If I can at least get these done, I will be very happy. So I made version 1 of Laughing Jack Nose last night, and this is it. Made of foam clay. I covered it with liquid latex. But realizing after putting it to my face, I don't like it anymore. So I'm gonna figure out a use for that so I can recycle it. Because less waste. I have remade it. It's a little flat right now, but this already is better than the first one I made. So hopefully tomorrow I can make some progress and we'll see. So, bit of an update. There's still a little bit of progress to do on Laughing Jack. A little bit of progress to do on Jack. Version 2 of the nose is not going to work. It shrank. The foam clay I've used for now 3 versions of this nose shrinks by a fair bit when it's drying. So the second one, it shrinks so that it's only here. It meant to be up here. So version 3, I'm much happier with the shape. So this is version 3. I've painted it. I did not bother with latex. The latex just peeled right off. There is a minor little issue there where it caved in somehow, but I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, there's a ridge, but It's a little lopsided, but I can always make a new version later on. Because I'm just noticing the lopsidedness. But it's fine. I'll deal with it for now. So the foam clay completely painted. It's gonna stick on with spirit gum and possibly also liquid latex. Yeah, I'm probably gonna make another version down the road. But for now, I'm happy with this one. It'll be wearable for what I want for Anime Ottawa. But yeah. So at this point, the only thing really left to work on is the shoulder feathers, and I need feathers for that. I was hoping I could just get feathers out of the camp trailer at my parents', because that's where I have an entire drawer full of feathers. Not only is the trailer inaccessible, so is that drawer. God damn it. Oh well. Okay, so we're officially into February. I did not film any of this, but this is one of the shoulder pieces for my monochrome Laughing Jack. So I'd shown that I hand sewed this. I used cut up fabric as stuffing for in here, and it ended up perfect. I've been a masochist. All of these feathers are completely hand sewn on. Though I realized when I went to start doing the other one, I thought I had 2 packages of the feathers that are like this, where they're little and they're fluffy, but they're still quills. Turns out I had 1 package. I used almost the entire package doing this, and I want to have this costume done by the end of this week. It's currently February 3rd. I'd ideally like to have this done by Friday so I can put the costume on with the full makeup, film, and hopefully enter the Kanji virtual masquerade with this. We will see though. So I've had to get really creative in what I'm doing because I have so few of these feathers left. Every other feather is one of these ones with one of these in between, because I have a bunch of these ones. And then on top, it's the full quills. So far, this is working. I don't know if it's going to be as nice as the first one, but we'll see. I'm crossing my fingers that this works out.
see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think two things. One part of me wants to take her out and talk to her, be real nice and sweet and treat her right.
And what the other part of him think?
What her head would look like on a stick.
Yep, in my white tee. Yeah.